Hi, second graders. My name is Shelby, and I'm from Partnership for Kids. Thank you so much for being at school today. As I know that you all know, it is really important to be at school whenever you can, whenever you're healthy and not sick, because when you are absent, it does affect the classroom because you and your classmates and your teacher all work together to learn and grow. So today our topic is achievers, and to achieve something means to complete something successfully. And there are many people who have achieved great things by setting goals and working hard to complete them, and you can achieve great things too. One goal that I set for myself that I achieved recently was to get good grades before my fall semester of college, which was, it ended around winter break was when it ended. And I did this by asking my teachers for help when I didn't understand something, turning in all my homework on time, and it was completely done. No answers were left blank, and by studying in my free time. And that's how I achieved my goal, and it felt great when I achieved it. So today our book is Martin Luther King Jr., and it's by Kitson Jazynka. And for this book, I'm going to read it through, and I've picked out 3 words. When we get to those words on pages, I'm going to ask that we reread the sentence together, and we will all say the word out loud together. And I will identify I'll tell you what those words are when we get to them. Who was Martin Luther King Jr.? Can you imagine a world where laws kept black and white people apart? So laws was the first word I chose, so we're going to go ahead and reread that sentence really quick. Can you imagine a world where laws kept black and white people apart? Where black children couldn't swim in the same pool as white children or go to the same schools, a place where laws made it hard for black people to vote, or where a black person had to stand up on a bus so a white person could sit down. This world was real, and it happened in the United States. So a word that this book wants us to know is civil rights. And civil rights, the rights that all people in the U.S. have to be treated as equals. And this is a picture of the statues at the National Civil Rights Museum in Memphis, Tennessee. Martin Luther King Jr. worked hard to change rules so they would be the same for whites and blacks. He didn't do it by fighting. He helped change unfair laws by making people think. So we're going to go ahead and read that sentence again because our first word laws was in it. He helped change unfair laws by making people think. He did it by making people feel. He did it with his words. So a word to know is protest. Protest means to say you don't agree with something. And this is a picture of protesters, and Dr. King was in this protest. He's right here. It says protesters. People who protest are called protesters. When protesters want unfair things changed, they sometimes march to show others that they do not agree with what is happening. Lots of black people and white people helped Dr. King protest those laws. So let's read that sentence again because laws was there. Lots of black people and white people helped Dr. King protest those laws. This made many people angry because they didn't want change. But in the end, the protesters won, and the rules changed forever. Growing up, Dr. King was born in 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia. He was named after his father. He was called ML. Small but strong, ML rode bikes with his brothers and sisters. ML's boyhood home on Auburn Avenue in Atlanta is open to the public. So this is a picture of the home right here. ML's father was a minister at Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia. ML's father was the minister of a church. He taught his children to stand up for what is right. He taught them to speak out against what is wrong. He taught them that all people deserve justice, which means that they should be treated fairly. And that's a picture of Dr. King's father. When he was 6, ML's best friend told him he was no longer allowed to play with ML. Why? Because ML was black and his friend was white. Segregation laws were meant to keep black people and white people apart. So segregation is the second word I picked out for us. So we're going to read the sentence again. It also has laws in it, so we're going to read segregation and laws together. Segregation laws were meant to keep black people and white people apart. They kept kids apart too. ML felt bad. Why wasn't he good enough to play with his friend? So down here we have the definition for segregation. And segregation means keeping someone or something apart from others. So this is right here is a picture of a movie theater that had a separate rear entrance for black people. ML's mother told him he was just as good as anybody else, and she told him the world was wrong. He wiped his tears. Then ML promised that one day he would change the world. So here's like a family portrait of Martin Luther King's family. So, sorry, my book keeps falling. Right here is his father. Then we have his grandmother. There's Martin Luther King as a kid. Sorry, I'm trying to find the label. Here we go. His sister Christine is right here in the middle. His brother Alfred Daniel is next to her, and right here is his mom. Change for Peace. Martin Luther King Jr. received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964. At that time, he was the youngest person ever to have received it. He was just 35 years old. So this right here is a word to know. It's the Nobel Peace Prize, and they say the definition is an important award given to outstanding work towards peace. And here he is accepting his award. In his time, Martin Luther King Jr. was a boy in the late 1930s. Many things were different from how they are today. Transportation. Most people still traveled by horse and buggy. Only some people were lucky enough to have cars. Cities. Some of New York City's famous skyscrapers were finished in the 1930s. Two of them are the Empire State Building, which is right here, and the Rockefeller Center. Money. Candy bars cost about a penny. That doesn't sound like much, but dollars and pennies were worth a lot more back then. U.S. events. Many people did not have jobs during this time, called the Great Depression. Most people had very little money. Toys and free time. Children played board games and listened to programs on the radio for fun. School. Times were tough. Some families couldn't afford to send their kids to school. Books, clothes, and shoes were too expensive. Away with words. ML grew up listening to sermons in church. He learned how powerful words can be used to help people understand ideas. When ML was 14, he entered a speech contest. He put his anger about unfairness of separate rules for white people and black people into words. He made people think. He made them feel. The judges loved his speech, and he won. So my last and final word was speech or speeches. So we're going to go ahead and read this paragraph aloud together again because speech was mentioned a couple of times. When ML was 14, he entered a speech contest. He put his anger about the unfairness of separate rules for white people and black people into words. He made people think. He made them feel. The judges loved his speech, and he won. In his own words. So this is a direct quote right here from Martin Luther King. It says, "Let us see to it that we give fair play and free opportunity for all people." And this is actually from his winning speech when he was only 14 years old. And then right here is a picture of Ebenezer Baptist Church, which is where Martin Luther King learned the power of words. That's also where his dad was a minister. And right here, a fun fact is ML not only grew up in Ebenezer Baptist Church, but he later became a minister there as well. And there's also a word to know right down here. It's sermon, and it's a long talk usually given in the church. On the bus ride home from the speech contest, the driver told ML and his teacher to give up their seats to white people. So we're going to go ahead and read that sentence again because speech is in there. On the bus ride home from the speech contest, the driver told ML and his teacher to give up their seats to white people. ML had to stand for 2 hours. He was mad, but he didn't say anything. He knew he could be arrested, hurt, or even killed if he did. And right here, it has a little label. It says, white passengers could sit in the front of the bus, and black passengers had to sit in the back or stand. And right here is a picture, and it says, a man attaches a segregated seating sign to a bus in the southern U.S. Oh, sorry. A student of peace. So this is the picture, says ML, third from the left, so he's right here, with fellow students at Morehouse College. So a fun fact is ML skipped 2 grades in high school. He started college very early. He was 15. ML worked hard in school. He finished college when he was 19 years old. He moved to the northeastern U.S. and continued in school. He wanted to be a minister like his father. And then this is a picture of Morehouse College. This is where he went to school. In 1952, Martin Luther King met Coretta Scott and fell in love. They got married and moved to South Alabama. There, ML worked as a minister. By 1955, he had gone as far as you can go in school. He had earned the title doctor. Now he was Dr. King. And then right here is a picture. It says Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama, which is where Dr. King was a minister. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Coretta Scott in 1956. That's what this picture is of. Okay. Helping others. So this is a picture. It says right here in the label, a white man and a black man drink at separate drinking fountains. And you can see that they have labels of who can drink at what fountain. The Kings moved back to the South to work for equal rights. They saw that not much had changed for black people there. They still couldn't swim in pools or go to school with whites. They still had to stand on buses so white people could sit. In Alabama, Dr. King had a chance to help. A bus driver told a woman named Rosa Parks to give up her seat to a white person, but she didn't get up. Rosa Parks was arrested because she had broken the law. Okay, so we're going to go back and read that last sentence because it has the word law in it. Rosa Parks was arrested because she had broken the law. And here's a picture of Rosa Parks. Okay, and then here's a picture of the bus stop where Rosa Parks was waiting in 1955. Lots of people went to a meeting to decide what to do. Maids, janitors, and other working people rode the buses. They asked people not to ride buses until blacks and whites had the same rules. They called it a boycott. They put Dr. King in charge because he had a way with words. So, right here it says, in his own words, always feel that you count. Always feel that you have worth. And right here, down here, it has a words to know. It's boycott. And the definition of boycott is to stop using a service as a way to protest it. And remember, protest means that you don't agree with it. For more than a year, black people walked. They took cabs. They even rode mules to get around. The boycott was not easy, but finally, people listened. Black people and white people would have the same rules on buses. Unfortunately, many white people did not follow the new rules. And then right here is a picture at the bottom. It says, people boycotting the buses waved to an empty bus driving by. Dr. King went all over the country giving speeches. Okay, we're going to reread that sentence again because it has the word speeches in it. Dr. King went all over the country giving speeches. He talked about injustice and civil rights. He made people think. He made people feel, and he asked people to join him for protests for change. Blacks and whites marched together to protest bad laws. Okay, so let's reread that sentence because it has laws in it. Blacks and whites marched together to protest bad laws. They went to places where only whites were allowed. A lot of them got arrested. Angry people called them names. Sometimes the marchers were even hurt or killed. So right here is a picture of Dr. King and Coretta Scott lead a 5-day march to Montgomery, Alabama in 1965. And down here, in his own words, it's a quote from Dr. King. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Newspapers, television, and radio reported it all. People around the country were mad. They saw how bad it was to have separate rules. Peaceful protests. Dr. King wanted to make the world a better place. He did this with peace, not hate or violence. People sometimes hurt him, but Dr. King did not hurt them back. He fought back with peaceful protests and powerful words. In his own words, another quote from Dr. King, "Love is the most durable power in the world." One person who saw what was going on was President John F. Kennedy. The president wanted to show that he agreed that rules should be the same for blacks and whites, so he invited Dr. King to visit him at the White House. A word to know here is peaceful. Peaceful means quiet and not disturbed by fighting or arguing. Another word is violence. Violence means hurting someone or something. So right here is a picture of Dr. King is right there, and then that's President John F. Kennedy. And then right here it says President John F. Kennedy met with Dr. King and other civil rights leaders at the White House. So right here we have 8 awesome facts about Dr. King. So our first fact is Dr. King and his father were both named Michael King, but his father changed their names in 1934. Fun fact number 2, once Dr. King was hit with a brick during a peaceful march, but he didn't fight back, he kept walking. Fun fact number 3, Dr. King liked to dance. Number 4, Dr. King learned good ideas from a man from India named Gandhi. He used a peaceful protest to fight unfair laws. So let's go ahead and reread that since it has the word laws in it. Dr. King learned good ideas from a man from India named Gandhi. He used peaceful protests to fight unfair laws. Number 6, the statue of Dr. King at his memorial in Washington, D.C. is huge. Its head weighs 27 tons. Number 5, sorry, we skipped over that one. Dr. King gave 2,500 speeches during the last 11 years of his life. So let's go ahead and read that since it has speeches in it. Dr. King gave 2,500, also you can say it's 2,500, speeches during the last 11 years of his life. Number 7, Dr. King told people to love each other like brothers and sisters. And number 8, Dr. King and Coretta Scott had 4 children, Yolanda, Martin Luther III, Dexter, and Bernice. Dr. King's dream. A fun fact is a draft of Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech is still located at Morehouse College. We're going to reread that because it has speech in it. A draft of Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech is still located at Morehouse College. This is a picture of thousands of people gathered for the March on Washington in 1963. You can see how many people were there, a lot of people. It was August 28, 1963 in Washington, D.C., in the same city where our country makes its laws. A huge crowd of people, black and white, cheered. So let's go ahead and read that sentence again since it has the word laws in it. It was August 28, 1963 in Washington, D.C., in the same city where our country makes its laws. A huge crowd of people, black and white, cheered. They had come to stand with Dr. King and protest bad laws. Let's go ahead and read that one, since it has laws in it. They had come to stand with Dr. King and protest bad laws. Everyone in the crowd wanted the same rules for white people and black people. Dr. King's voice boomed as he gave his most famous speech called I Have a Dream. Let's go ahead and reread that since it has the word speech in it. Dr. King's voice boomed as he gave his most famous speech called I Have a Dream. Dr. King's dream was for all people to be treated the same. Hard times. 3 months after Dr. King's speech, President Kennedy was assassinated. It was a hard time for the United States, but the next president, Lyndon Johnson, kept working to change the rules. This picture of President Johnson and Dr. King shaking hands. They're right here. A word to know is assassinate. It means to murder an important person. In his own words, so another speech from Dr. King. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. And this is a picture of him reading the speech at the Lincoln Memorial. His final years. The rules did change in 1964 and again in 1965. Laws were now the same for black people and white people. We're going to reread that since it has laws in it. Laws were now the same for black people and white people, but not everyone followed the new rules the right way. For the next several years, Dr. King and many others kept working. Dr. King gave speeches. Let's read that again. Dr. King gave speeches. He planned peaceful protests, and he helped others. In 1966, Dr. King walked black children to Mississippi schools that used to be all white. So here's a picture of that. In 1968, Dr. King was in Memphis, Tennessee. He was helping black garbage collectors protest for better pay, but angry people still did not want change. A man with a gun assassinated Dr. King. Black and white people around the world were very sad. They had lost a man who made them think and feel. They had lost a man who helped make our world a better place with peace and justice. But Dr. King left us his words to remember him by. And then right down here we have a timeline of Dr. King's life. So 1929, he was born in Atlanta, Georgia on January 15th. 1948, he graduated from college and became a minister. In 1952, he met Coretta Scott and they were married a year later. In 1954, he started work at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama. In 1962, he visited the White House. In 1963, he was arrested at a peaceful protest and jailed for 2 weeks. And in 1963, he spoke at the March on Washington. And it says right here that Dr. King's dream lives on today. A memorial to peace. You can visit a national memorial to Dr. King. It is in Washington, D.C. There you can read his words about his hope that people could live together peacefully and with justice. You can also stand next to a 30-foot statue of him. It is called the Stone of Hope. From far away, the Stone of Hope looks gray, but up close it's really many colors. The colors stand for all the different people in the world. That's because Dr. King stood up for the right to be treated fairly. It says the Stone of Hope is carved out of granite. This color rock is called shrimp pink. A word to know is memorial. It means something created to remind people of a person, event, or important idea. So we're going to continue with our timeline here. In 1964, he was arrested for demanding to eat at a white-only restaurant. Again, 1964, he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. 1965, he led 25,000 people in a march to protest unfair voting laws. 1968, he was killed on April 4th in Memphis, Tennessee. In 1983, a new national holiday honors Dr. King on his birthday. And in 2011, National Memorial to Dr. King in Washington, D.C. opened. And here's a picture of the memorial statue. And that is the end of our book. So I hope that you guys really enjoyed that. If you don't already have a copy of the book, one will be provided for you, and you can take that home and read it with the people in your house. So since we read about that book and about all that Dr. King achieved, if you could all share one thing that you want to achieve in your life, it could be where you want to go to college, what job you want to have when you get older. It could be any kind of goal that you have set for yourself. So go ahead and pause the screen when you're ready to share, and then unpause when you're done. Thank you. Okay, well, thank you to those of you who shared. I'm sure you all had great ideas, awesome goals set for yourself. I hope that you guys enjoyed the book and have a great rest of your day.